The law of success. So I was working with Robert last week. We're going through lots of really cool training and some ideas. And this is a presentation I've done for the last couple of years. It's an abbreviated version. The actual full training is 16 lessons. This one's 9, despite the misleading title. I think I forgot to go back and update the first slide because I couldn't get it down to 8. How many folks are fans or know Napoleon Hill? Good, most everybody. If not for Napoleon Hill, there would be no Tony Robbins. There would be no Zig Ziglar. None of these folks. They all grew out of this Think and Grow Rich strategy that Napoleon Hill had spent 20 years developing. He was hired by Andrew Carnegie. And Andrew Carnegie was very, very curious to know why some people were so wildly successful and the masses struggled in poverty. So he interviewed a lot of people. Napoleon Hill got the job. 20-year gig. But here was the thing. Andrew Carnegie, who was notoriously cheap, did not pay Napoleon Hill a dime for the 20 years of work he then put in to discover why people were so rich and some people were so poor. But in the course, what Andrew Carnegie did in the course of this study was he opened up all of the doors that he had so that Napoleon could interview the likes of Thomas Edison and Henry Ford and John D. Rockefeller, among others. And he also interviewed lots of what he would call average people. And at the end of the day, at the end of 20 years, he interviewed thousands of people, and he published a book called The Law of Success. Now that book is about this thick. Anyone read The Law of Success? And most people know Napoleon Hill, or introduced Napoleon Hill, through Think and Grow Rich, which is a distillation. It is the Kentucky bourbon of the Law of Success. We've taken all of these wonderful things, we've distilled it down into a pretty powerful drink. And that's what that is. We're going to unpack it a little bit here. We're going to go into 9 laws. And I'm going to take this same training out to the offices as well, so you're getting a preview. But I believe that this is something that everybody should be exposed to. And it's a lot of how I live my life. And I've gotten to share the crazy story of how I came to rediscover Napoleon Hill with Robert over dinner. And it's so this is very, very, hits close to home for me. So probably, let's talk about the first lesson. This is probably the most powerful thing that Napoleon Hill found when he interviewed all of these captains of industry. And it was having a chief, definite aim. What are we all going for? When we talk about vision, vision is simply a destination. Many of you have heard me say, without vision, you're a cork bobbing around on the ocean of life. And you'll end up on the beach somewhere. You just don't have a say in where that is. So a chief definite aim puts a rudder on your journey through life, and it allows you to start to steer toward that destination. Everyone faces defeat. It may be a stepping stone or a stumbling block, depending on the mental attitude with which it's faced. Henry Ford said this a little differently. Whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. I often believe that the stumbling blocks that you're thrown in life are there for a reason. You're supposed to face those things and overcome them. There's a reason that they were put in your way. So what are some of the things with the having a chief definite aim? Singleness of purpose is essential. So I look out at the solar industry several years from now. I see an industry, well, I already lived this. We talked about it last night. We talked about the shift from hardware to software that I lived through in the 1990s and early 2000s. That shift is happening in our industry today. Whether you like it or not, you sell hardware. And the shift is moving to software. That software is smart homes and how everything becomes enabled. And the solar itself is simply a generation source for that hardware and the software that's going to be running our lives in the years to come. Like it or not, appearances count. So another favorite, Andrew Carnegie actually said, the older I get, the more I look at what people do and the less I listen to what they say. That has a lot to do with the appearance. Are you actually doing something? Are you making moves toward that singleness of purpose and those goals? This is an interesting one. Something in human nature makes us resent the impact of new ideas. This is that change resistance that we feel. It's been a lot of change over the last 8 months at this company, and I spent a lot of time really digging into it, what it means and what the purpose of it all was. But if there's anything that's constant today, it's change. Change is the new constant. The things that were working for us previously may not work for us moving forward. And we're always having to renegotiate our course. When the Saturn rocket went to the moon, it made millions of course corrections an hour. If you think about that. You're moving through space, the moon's moving around the Earth's moving around the sun is hurling, our sun and solar system are hurling through our galaxy, which is in itself hurling through the universe at hundreds of thousands of kilometers a second. So imagine the course corrections that go into getting something in space to land on another moving object in space. You definitely need a destination and a plan. So a definite purpose requires a definite plan. Otherwise, you're a drifter in the sea of life. Napoleon Hill wrote an excellent book that was actually suppressed and hidden for many years. It's called Outwitting the Devil. It was finally published in 2011. He has a whole chapter on drifting and how we get caught drifting and how the devil, which is the devil in our own minds, tricks us into drifting. So are you a drifter on the sea of life? If you don't have a port, if you don't have a rudder, then the answer is yes. Until an individual selects a definite purpose in life, he dissipates his energies. Right? You're spreading the energy all over the place. You cannot cut anything with a rainbow. They're pretty, but you can't cut anything. I certainly couldn't but if I take that rainbow and I focus it down into a laser, I can cut through the thickest metal, rock, whatever. Can't cut anything with a rainbow. The wonderful thing is you're living in an age where the materials of success are plentiful and cheap. I talk a lot about social media. How many folks are actually using social media? Particularly LinkedIn. And how much business can be had through those channels. I've sold more solar through Facebook, in particular. And I've cut more business deals on LinkedIn than I could count. The last count, my LinkedIn deal total was north of $20 million. You leveraging a network that is free. Free and abundant. Always keep in mind the never-varying truth that you'll get nowhere if you start nowhere. If your aim in life is vague, your achievements will also be vague. Know what you want, when you want it, why you want it, and how you intend to get it. So a lot of you will hear me say, X to Y by when. It's the when that changes it from a dream to a goal. You might think, well, that thing is nice to have. Okay, where are you now? X. Where do you want to be? Y. And by when? Set those goalposts, because life has a very funny habit of moving goalposts on us if we don't hold ourselves accountable. Lesson 2, self-confidence. Well, I'm in a room full of salespeople, so there's no shortage of that here. But just to review, self-confidence is actually a power that we can use to recharge our minds and to stay focused. A lot of it's a product of knowledge, knowing what you're talking about. It's also using knowledge responsibly. You don't just want to share all the knowledge you have at the front door. You want to meter it out slowly. In sales, if you do, we talked about it last night, spilling candy at the door. Spilling all your candy at the front door, then you got nothing left. You got no arrows in your quiver. But there's going to be a lot of knowledge. We'll be rolling out all kinds of cool training. We've already had a wonderful story about closing at the breaker box. And we're going to be teaching all kinds of technical stuff as well as sales stuff to get the confidence levels up and out-knowledge our competitors. Out of resistance comes strength, and out of strength comes self-confidence. When life throws something at you and you climb over it, you become a little more self-confident because you were able to conquer that thing instead of shying away from it. It's up to you whether a bump in the road is a speed bump or a mountain. It's really up to you. Nothing can bring success but yourself. This is one thing that, if you look at the second to bottom bullet, look prosperous and you will feel prosperous. So I dress up every day. I do because I believe that if I look and feel prosperous, I will be prosperous. And it is something that I changed in my life a couple of years ago. And it's made a massive difference. Even showing up, if I'm going to see a client on a Sunday, I'm going in my Sunday best. Now, I'm not going in my flip-flops and all this stuff on a Sunday because it's Sunday. And when you look prosperous and feel prosperous, people want to do business with you. People want to help you achieve your goals. And you have to shake off the fear of failure. So when we look about confidence, the opposite of confidence is fear. Fear is such a debilitating emotion. And unfortunately, it's drilled into us from a very young age. Think about it in school if you got an F. That was a bad thing. I think Fs are a good thing. When my son was, screwing off in school and my wife was all on him, I said, let him screw off in school. Let him suffer the consequences. Let him figure it out. You're not going to be able to hover over him his whole life. Sure enough, he got through it and brought his grades up. But this is a hard thing. Fear is a hard thing because we are so programmed. Our educational system, which Napoleon Hill talks about a lot in Outwitting the Devil, actually programs us to be afraid to fail. Yet failure is where we learn the most. In no field of endeavor does self-confidence or the lack thereof, play such an important role as in the field of salesmanship. I say you win or lose deals in the driveway. Absolutely. If you're not feeling good when you pull in that driveway or you walk up that front step, you're not going to get that appointment, you're not going to get that deal. Guaranteed. That's why if you come, when I go on ride-alongs with you, we're going to be listening to like really up music. We're going to be listening to like AC/DC and the Rolling Stones, and we're going to be getting all in a good mood because we're going to close a deal. Initiative and leadership. A lot of people had asked me, when I tell them the story, I started off as an independent contractor and worked my way up at Helio Power. How did you do that? And really the lesson's simple. Most people feel or believe that the opportunity will come with the promotion. When I get that promotion, I will do that job then. But the truth is actually the opposite of that. By taking initiative, you actually create the position that you then fill after. So initiative is the passkey of opportunity. I always say, look for the vacuums and fill them. There are vacuums all around us. The people that fill them advance. The people that fill them make the money. Once you know your goal, you have to make a habit of taking definite action each day toward that goal. So my son and I are about 70% of the way through our sequel to our book, The Tinker on the Fold. How do we know where we are? We have a chart. We know exactly how many words we have to write every day, how many chapters we have to write every week, and we have a little mountain climber and a goat, and we can see who's winning and losing. If the mountain climber's below the goat climbing up the mountain, we're losing. We have to catch up and write more. So being able to take that, but we take little action every single day. And we have scheduled times we sit down and write. So if you have goals, what are you doing? Take that amount of money you want to make and reverse yourself into it. I've never seen an opportunity like this. I could tell you exactly how many doors you need to knock to make $120,000. I could run the formula in 5 seconds. It's that clear, okay? Make work an interesting game that you're playing. Already happening in Northern California. Wonderful exercise this week. Sitting down and making a game out of hitting the goals. It's something we want to roll out to all the offices. How do we actually make this fun? Because work should be fun. It should absolutely be fun. That's why we're all here. Money, to me, is secondary to the fun. Absolutely secondary. And it's funny, the more fun you have, the more money seems to come in. It's a really odd thing. Don't focus on the money, focus on the fun. A salesperson's first sale is always to him or herself. So important. If you don't feel it and you don't believe it, you can't sell it. When I got into solar, I sold myself my system first. I was the first person to get a whole house fan. I was the first person to get a Nest. As we started rolling out all the technologies and things that we're going to start to explore here, I was always the guinea pig that did it first. So I had confidence. Limitations Your only limitations are the ones you set up in your own mind. And Napoleon Hill always said, if the human mind can believe it, it can achieve it. So if you're not getting to your goals, look at what you're doing. Ask for help. The first place to always look is in the mirror. One thing I noticed that people will externalize all of the challenges in their life. Well, if only operations did their job. Well, if only sales support was doing this, or if only these people, or if only that customer wasn't such a jerk. It's funny, you're the epicenter of all of these things happening to you. The world bestows its big prizes, both in money and honors, on one thing, and that is initiative. And taking initiative. Whether that initiative is getting everybody out on a Saturday morning, getting them inspired to be out there. That initiative is pushing yourself to get an extra couple deals in a month. That initiative is to take a class that you always wanted to take so that you could get better at something. Imagination. Nothing beats this. Imagination is so very important, which is why we really want to push all of the goal setting down to the team level, to the TL level. The reason is that you're closest to the clients and you're closest to what's going on, and it's your imagination that will actually help us to fulfill our goals as a company. So, if you look around this room, I would challenge you to find anything in here that didn't start off as an idea. Somebody's mind. Everything here. Somebody created at some point. They conceived of it and they actually turned it into the physical reality. Adversity and temporary defeat actually stimulate the imagination. Which is why I told my wife, stop hovering over my son. Let him face the adversity. Let him get chewed out by his teacher. Let him get made fun of by the other kids. He's in like a nerdy class, so they make fun of each other for grades and stuff. But having the most definite chief aim will focus your imagination. Otherwise, you're distributing your energies everywhere. And you'll never know your capacity for achievement until you actually stretch yourself, get out of your comfort zone. I hope we never lose sight of one thing. It was all started by a mouse. Now, for those of you who know anything about Walt Disney, it wasn't actually a mouse. It was actually a rabbit. His name was Oswald the rabbit. And Oswald, when Walt Disney first came from Missouri to California, and he presented Oswald to the studio heads at Universal Studios, they said, oh, what a wonderful idea. And they stole Oswald from Walt Disney. So Walt and his lead cartoonist, his name is Ub Iwerks, somebody who most people actually don't even know who that is, but Ub Iwerks was the person who actually invented all the characters that we know, Mickey Mouse and Goofy and Pluto. Didn't get a lot of credit for it. He and Walt Disney split up in the early 1960s, and he started his own animation studio. He was cheated out of his part of the Disney fortune, which today would be worth about $10 billion, or his estate would. But Walt Disney didn't stop. What he did is he took Oswald, he and Ub Iwerks sat down one day, and they simply made him into a mouse. And it all stemmed from there. But Walt Disney was well known for overcoming adversity, starting with Oswald the rabbit. Enthusiasm. No shortage of that around here. No shortage of enthusiasm. Zig Ziglar would say that salesmanship is the transfer of enthusiasm from one person to another. If you're not feeling it, you're not closing it. If you're not feeling it, you're not dealing it. It's not happening. Enthusiasm is an incredibly vital force for recharging ourselves. Think about how much better you feel when you're enthusiastic about something. And enthusiasm is something that we can control. If we stay up too late and don't get enough sleep, we tend to be less enthusiastic, right? There are things that serve us, like diet and exercise and sleep, and there are things that do not serve us, like the opposite of those things. Enthusiasm will cause obstacles to melt away. Think about how much easier it is to overcome some sort of hurdle that's thrown in your way when you're enthusiastic and you have a high amount of energy to get over that thing. Keeping your energy levels high helps you get over those hurdles in life. if you're constantly worn down, not taking care of yourself, not getting enough sleep, everything seems bigger and steeper and harder than it is. Your enthusiasm can be felt by your client, as can your lack of enthusiasm. So how you feel, I believe, transmits to the other party at a radio frequency that we don't hear. This is why I say you win or you lose things in the driveway. You're transmitting as you're walking up. You're transmitting with your body language. Are you standing tall? Are you slouched over? Are you smiling? Do you have big bags under your eyes because you're out all night? All this stuff transmits to the client. Nobody can be enthusiastic about mediocrity. And I like to say, be an American, not an American. Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote a lot about the law of compensation, which Napoleon Hill later talked about, and he called it the law of attraction. And many years later, there was a movie that came out called The Secret. But it all traces back to Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay on the law of compensation. And to put it in sum, what goes around comes around. Thank you, Mr. Emerson. Self-control. Self-control is hard. Discipline is hard. Napoleon Hill always believed that you could do whatever you like if you take control of your own mind. He talks about this a lot. You can watch him in his YouTube videos. He actually has YouTube videos, even though he's been dead for 50 years. You have to take control of your own mind. That is self-control. So self-control is a salesperson's most damaging weakness. That is not having it. Not having a system. Not practicing your pitch. Not having a goal. Not reverse engineering the goal to know how you're going to get to that goal. Not having the discipline to follow through every day. That kind of lack of self-control. When you lack self-control, one of the things that you do, and when you externalize issues, if only those people in operations had their shit together, you're putting your happiness into the hands of others. People with self-control have a tremendous advantage over those who lack it. We all have the same amount of time in a day. You might wake up and say, how the heck did that guy do this in that amount of time? Self-control, discipline, and practice. That's it. Self-control is nothing more than thought control. It's saying no to that little voice in the back of your head that wants to eat the Snickers bar at 1 a.m. That's the voice I'm always grappling with, by the way. Or saying no to the voice who says, oh, you should sleep another 15 minutes and not head down to the gym this morning. I'll get that exercise in, right? Saying no to the voice that says, oh man, I just don't feel like getting out and hitting the streets today. Before you attain measurable success, you must control your thoughts and actions. This last bullet is pretty interesting. In sales, we got to do something called active listening. We talked about active listening last night, particularly in acting, right? Dan was telling me about how it's important in acting. I listen to salespeople interrupt people all the time. They cannot wait to get to the next question on their script. Don't even listen to the answer. They're just going to plow right over the prospect with a million questions, never listening to the answer. It's a lack of self-control. And discipline. Discipline is simply remembering what you want. What do you really want? If you really want it, you will develop the discipline to get there. And discipline is no more than forming habits. And forming habits happens whether you like it or not. Habits just form by the things you do and the things you think about the most. And if you want to change the habit, you have to replace those thoughts and actions with new thoughts and actions that are geared toward getting what you want versus what you don't want. If you're developing your habits by default, oh my God, you're in trouble. Take control of your habits and take control of your destiny and drive it all toward a definite chief aim. This is my favorite. The habit of doing more than you're paid for. You guys have all heard how I, took me about 10 months to build my pipeline up. And I was working as an engineer, and I was flying to Atlanta on Sunday nights. I'd fly back on Thursday nights, and at night in Atlanta, I would make all my phone calls and set my appointments for the weekend. If I didn't have appointments for the weekend, I would hit the doors. And back in those days, hitting the doors was, this guy's house is being short saled, and this one's being foreclosed on. This was 2008, 7. Nothing to sell but cash, no lease, no PPA, no loans. Lorena, what do you mean you don't have $50,000? Oh, your house is being short sold? Oh, know anybody who actually has money? Because they might benefit from solar. But the thing that really got me over the hump and got my referrals really gelling was this habit. Going above and beyond for the client. Advocating for them to make sure that their systems were built on time. Advocating for them as things came up along the way. Working through issues with them, whether it was a roofing issue, an electrical issue, an issue with the city, an unpermitted structure, an open permit. The fact that the ground mount was going on a leach field from their septic system. And I would always jump ahead, and I would always jump in front of that train that was coming for the client. And at the end of the day, they gave me lots of referrals because of that. You got to use my guy. My guy will take care of you. You don't become my guy. You got to use my guy or my gal. You got to use my expert. You don't become that person unless you pick up this habit. So we can all get by rendering as little service as possible. But that's all you're going to ever do is get by. When you do only that for which you were paid, there is nothing out of the ordinary. They got what they expected. Dandy, right? I got what I expected. You want to blow people's minds. You want to go over the top, make them feel special. It's impossible for a person to be cheated by anyone except him or herself. Now you may say, oh, Scott, that's not true. So-and-so cheated me. Or I got screwed by this person. Did you really? What role did you play in that transaction? It's often the piece people miss. You succeed the quickest by helping others to be successful. So when I was first promoted to sales manager, I was promoted because I was the best salesman in the office. So naturally, I would be made a manager. No clue how to manage people. Not a clue. So I started reading books and watching YouTube videos and things like this. How do I manage these people? I don't even want the job because babysitting people is a nightmare. I don't want to babysit all these people. They don't know what they're doing. They're hard to motivate. I'd rather just be responsible for myself. In fact, I was so bad at it in college when I had team projects, I would just do the whole project for everybody because I actually didn't trust anybody would do a good job. Okay? I had to grow out of that and mature a little bit emotionally, but I got over it. But once I got into management, I really started to see I could help people. And the first person I helped, actually Lance knows him, his name's Charles Curley. And Charles had been through quite a rough time through the financial crisis. And I was able to get him back on his feet, earning 6 figures and into a new house. But Charles is one of many people. And the wonderful thing is, the feeling that you get from helping people is absolutely amazing. And it's what gets me going every day. When I come in here and I look at the tremendous opportunity we have here. Some folks have said, well, Scott, I thought when you looked at everything, you would say, oh my God, look at this big heap of problems we got to dig through. Yeah, I suppose you could look at it that way. It's a really sad, small-minded way to look at it, right? I suppose you could look at it that way. It's a tremendous opportunity. And what I hope is we start to tap into that opportunity, that the folks in this room who represent the leadership of this company will start to rise and hit their goals, hit your goals, be able to rise in their careers. And we can look around and we can be kingmakers of all of you. I can't tell you, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm here, is to help you and your teams achieve their goals. And if we're able to do that, the company's goals just happen by helping you achieve your goals. Give so you shall get. How many here are in BNI, Business Networking International? Do you remember the manifesto?
Not a fan.
It's Giver's Gain. It's amazing how much you get by giving. That's that old karma thing, right? Oh, that's a bunch of crap, that karma thing doesn't really work. So I don't believe that at all. I believe the more you give, the more you get. So give so you shall get. So how do you give to your clients? This is what you want to think about, right? Well, you're giving them quite a gift. You're giving them a massive reduction on their electric bill. You know, you're giving them all sorts of future security. We talked about, hey, you know, your electric solar system, as soon as you get an electric car, becomes your gas bill, right? So there goes your gasoline bill, there's your electric bill, right? Security in old age. You're giving people a gift, but you can give them the gift of service as well by doing more than what you're paid to do. If you do not derive satisfaction from your work, no paycheck will ever be big enough. The funny thing about doing more for that you're paid is before you realize what's happened, you will find that the world is willing to pay you more, to pay you for more than you do. That's a funny thing that happens. That's what I call the, you guys have all heard me talk about dragging that rock up the hill, right? You're starting your business, and then they get over the crest of the hill and the rock starts dragging you down the other side. That is what's happening here. The world is paying you for more than you do. Accurate thought. So I hope I've demonstrated accurate thought in my first 35 days, 36 days, I think today is. I'm very objective. I look at the facts, and I make very quick decisions. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I do not allow gossip, rumors, news, and chatter to influence my opinion. I confirm, I believe, I trust, but verify. Even though what you believe you're telling me may be the truth in your mind, it's been filtered by your perception. And that's okay. I need a counterpoint. I'm going to need to double check and see. Then we're going to need to aggregate all those filters together and try to arrive at some sort of an objective opinion. Gossip in sales organizations is deadly. Absolutely deadly. Salespeople will sell anything. As a recovering salesperson, I know this to be true. We will sell anything, good, bad, and ugly. The more we focus on the good, the more good we sell, the more money we make. The more we focus on gossip and rumors and these types of things, they're distraction. And we have a tendency of dragging everybody else down with us. Everyone goes down the rabbit hole together. And that's a really bad place to be. As I came in my first 30 days, there's gossip and rumor flying around this place like nobody's business. Nobody's business. Imagine that as a new person coming in. If you were a new person coming in, how would you actually distill all of this and filter all of this and try to make sense of all of this? It'd be very difficult. Unless you have the discipline of accurate thought. You can actually distill facts from fiction and rumors from innuendo. Relevant facts propel you forward. Irrelevant ones distract you. Gossip is irrelevant. I will not allow gossip in my house. When my wife and her girlfriends will come over and I'll hear them all chickadee, chatty, chat, cluck, cluck, cluck in the other room. And I'll literally go in there and I'll say, guys, really? That person's not even here. I'm not going to have it in my house. You guys want to go down to the coffee shop and cluck, cluck, cluck and talk about people? Fine. Not here. These people can't defend themselves. Why would you do this? I don't think it's right. It's funny with the look you get from those people, too, when you call them out, like, in your own house. And can I get anyone more coffee? Then there's just like the awkward silence. So, the power to think as you wish is the only power you truly possess. My son and I are watching this excellent series on Netflix about how the brain fools us.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I recommend everyone watch it on Netflix. I'll send a link out for what the show is. But it's all about the illusions and how our brains actually paint the world, and how it's actually not how it really appears, and how our brains fill in different things.
What's the title?
I'll have to look it up.
Brain Games?
Yeah, I'll send it out.
Brain Games, is it?
I think it is Brain Games. Yeah. And when you look at something like that, you go, no. I know what's real from not real, and I know what's fact from fiction and illusion from reality? No, actually none of us do. It's all an illusion. It really is.
The Matrix.
It may be the Matrix, right? But it is. I mean, our brains literally create this illusion around us all the time in order for us to deal with reality. The truth, we're all looking for truth. But why are we here? You know, why am I here? What's my purpose? Well, there's only one place to look for that. I'm a big fan of, and many of you have heard this, but there's an old Persian fable called The Acres of Diamonds. And it discusses stories about a farmer who sees a soothsayer, fortune teller. The fortune teller tells him in his travels he will find acres of diamonds and be very, very wealthy. So he leaves his farm. His farm falls into disrepair, and he spends the rest of his life looking for these acres of diamonds. And when he's destitute in his old age and he comes back to the farm to plow the field again because he has to eat, he plows up a bunch of diamonds.
Yeah.
The diamonds were there the whole time. They were within him. They were within his farm. He had to go out and try to find them out in the world. Never mistake a fact for the expediency of doing a thing. Or, as John Wooden would say, never mistake activity for achievement. Facts are often inconvenient, but it's vital to not ignore them. Right? Facts can be incredibly inconvenient. That's why we tend to like to filter them and put them in different colors and try to ignore them. Well, that'll get better. If you have a fact, and the fact is your job is stuck in the queue somewhere, the other fact is that you're the one who's best able to dislodge it from being on hold. You're the one who's been able to dislodge it, get with the client. Yes, it's inconvenient that your job is stuck. But you're the client advocate. Do more than for what you're paid. Don't ignore facts because they're inconvenient. The clarity of perception makes reality look as it is. Lesson 9. I told you there was a bonus one in here. Failure. Sound character is usually the handiwork of reversals and drawbacks. Failure is only permanent if you decide it is. There was actually a very interesting medical study that just came out last week that talked about women who've been cheated on. And they actually went into the neurological development, emotional development. And they'll probably do one for men as well, but this one happened to be women. And they actually found that there were significant growth in the neurons in certain parts of the brain that resulted from rejection and the emotional development of getting over that. It's a pretty interesting study. But I think that's true of any failure that we have in life. One of the great lessons taught by failure is humility. Thomas Edison said, I failed 10,000 times. Right? I didn't succeed once, I failed 10,000 times. 10,000 experiments to get a light bulb to work. He just kept chugging at it. Albert Einstein said, I'm no smarter than anyone else. I just stick at the problem a little longer. Responsibility always gravitates to the person who refuses to accept defeat as permanent failure. If you're the kind of person who learns from failure, accepts failure, and grows from it, it's amazing the kind of responsibility and promotions and things that happen for you in your career. Because most people, and it's not their fault, it's because of our education system, are hardwired to be afraid to fail. The people who will take on failure succeed wildly. Look at Steve Jobs. How many times did he fail, right? He got kicked out of his own company. And it failed when he left, only they had to bring him back to fix it. And if you look at anybody who's risen to those great heights, there's usually some massive thing that just not only knocked them over, but kicked them several times while they were down. Somehow they managed to pick themselves up. I would say it's not the falling, it's the picking yourself up. That's important. We're all going to fall. You got to make up your mind to win. And I said this earlier, but if you're experiencing a temporary setback, you are being tested. You've attracted that to yourself. You have to ask yourself, why am I being challenged with this thing? How am I going to come over it? And know that when you do, you'll grow and you'll be better for it. Being challenged in life is inevitable. Being defeated is optional. And I believe that's it. No, one more quote. Do not wait. The time will never be just right. Start where you stand and work whatever tools you may have at your command, and better tools will be found as you go along. So, like I tell my son, we work on our books. How do you write a book? One word at a time. And if we're not feeling it, we stop writing. We may write 50 words, we're done for the day, because we're not gelling. How do you build your career here? I mean, it's, you just got to call it, right? I'm not going to force it, because if you force it, it's going to show up in the writing. How do you build your career here? I would say it's one door at a time, one sale at a time, one customer at a time. You got to start where you are, and the better tools will be found as you go along. And I'll tell you right now, we're developing some pretty sick tools that we're going to be bringing to the game here very shortly. So I'm glad you guys are all here to come along for the ride. That's it.
Woo! Yep.